A lot of people ask me, Michael, what's your pre-workout routine? What supplements do you take before working out? And my answer is usually very disappointing because I don't have a complicated pre-workout ritual that's filled with powders and supplements. In fact, my pre-workout routine is really just my daily routine. Most of what I do before I go work out is just what I do in the morning anyway. I mean, I work out in the morning, but it wouldn't probably, well, it would be different if I worked out in the evening, but for my morning workouts, it's almost the same as on days where I don't work out.
Welcome to the Primal Shift podcast.
Maybe something right up front. When most people ask about pre-workouts, they often mean pre-workout supplements that might contain, caffeine and amino acids like BCAAs and beta-alanine and all of those things because they can improve performance, right? And the truth is that many of those ingredients have been scientifically proven to improve athletic performance and maybe even recovery. Many also just make you feel better. Like if you take a pre-workout supplement with 200 milligrams of caffeine, then yeah, you're gonna feel wired and energetic and you feel like it's working and you're going to perform better. There is some truth to that. There are certain types of workouts where feeling checked up and wired can help improve performance. Like if you're weightlifting, you want to go for a 1 rep max or whatever, it certainly helps if you have some extra caffeine in you. And maybe even, feeling the tingling sensation after taking beta-alanine, which is due to the increased blood flow in your skin, which doesn't necessarily improve athletic performance, the tingling that is. But there are other types of workouts where you don't want to feel wired. Like if I do CrossFit and I have a demanding CrossFit workout where I try to keep my heart rate as low as possible, I don't want to be checked up on caffeine because that has the exact opposite effect. So there are some nuances, but the bottom line is, yes, pre-workout supplements can very much help, but I'm not a pro athlete. Being or performing 2% better in a workout is just irrelevant to me, And so let me share you what my quote unquote pre-workout routine looks like on days that I actually work out and also on other days. And the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is...
We have to interrupt this episode for an important message from your feet. They've had enough of being cramped into traditional shoes. Regular shoes can wreck your back, joints, and overall foot health by squeezing your toes and disconnecting you from the ground. That's why I switched to Beluva minimalist shoes, and the difference has been incredible. These shoes give me a perfect, natural connection to the ground whether I'm walking, sprinting, or lifting heavy. My back pain disappeared, my athletic performance has improved dramatically, and they are comfortable enough to wear all day. Plus, my toes are finally pointing in the direction they're supposed to. Check them out at peluva.com and use code KUMMER for 15% off. That's peluva.com. And now back to the episode.
To rehydrate, because we lose a lot of water during sleep through sweating, just through the breath. And most everyone wakes up slightly dehydrated. And if you're dehydrated, you're not going to perform optimally. So the first thing that I do is I rehydrate. I drink a glass or two of water, high quality water, meaning either mineral water that I purchase or just the water we have here that's filtered tap water. I try to stay away from RO water unless it has been remineralized because I don't want to drink water that's void of minerals because that just makes it pass through and leaches out even more electrolytes through the urine, and that's obviously one thing I want to avoid. So I drink high quality water. I'm experimenting right now with hydrogen water, which has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory benefits. And I might also just drink, add a pinch of salt to my water. Or maybe on days when I work out, I pay more attention to this. I add a scoop of electrolyte powder that has magnesium, potassium, sodium, so just the standard electrolytes to make sure that I not only hydrate from, with water, but also with the electrolytes that I might have lost if, I got up at night and peed, for example. The second thing I do is I enjoy a cup of coffee, black coffee usually, and not because of the caffeine. I don't drink coffee for the caffeine. Caffeine is not something that gives you energy. It just tricks your brain into thinking you're not tired even when you are. So that's not the purpose. I just enjoy the taste and the smell, but I have a cup of black coffee, sometimes two, depending on my timing. I either have it here in the office when I check on emails, or I have it on my walk with the dog. And that's really the next part of my morning slash pre-workout routine. I go for a walk with the dog relatively quickly after waking up, either right away, depending on when I wake up, or I go to the office for half an hour, check my emails, and then I go out for a walk for a couple of reasons. A, because the dog needs to, exercise as well. I need to get moving, and I've noticed that, especially on days when I work out, if I go for a walk before, I'm already kind of warmed up. Blood is flowing already. My joints might feel less stiff, especially if I had a tough workout the previous day. And so it just helps overall make me feel better and more ready to push it then in the gym. It also helps me clear my mind, reduce stress, get my thoughts sorted out, prepare mentally, not only for the workout, but for the day ahead. Depending on when I work out and what time of the year it is, I might get some morning sunlight that helps me with my circadian rhythm, with sleep then the following night. And it's just overall a great way to get the day started instead of being on a device. And that's different between days that I work out and days that I don't work out. I jump into the cold plunge before leaving for a CrossFit workout. And some people might say, well, that's crazy, because why would you cold plunge before? Shouldn't you be doing it after? And the reason is usually no. For a number of there are a number of reasons for that. One is it definitely, if you're not awake by the time you get into the plunge, you'll definitely be awake once you're in, or once you get out, you feel highly awake and you have like a flood of chemicals in your blood that make you alert and just ready to roll. It helps with athletic performance as well, because one of the reasons why we fatigue during a workout is because the mitochondria overheats. And so by pre-cooling the mitochondria, pre-cooling your body generally speaking, but specifically the mitochondria, you can actually extend or delay fatiguing. And so your athletic performance is better if you do it before working out. And last but not least, and that's one of the most critical components of why I plunge before, it's been shown to boost testosterone. It's a great way to naturally boost the testosterone by first pre-cooling and then working out. And it doesn't really have to be a tough workout. For me, usually it means CrossFit, but it could just be a brisk walk or some body weight movements, what have you. But that's why I do it before and not after. In fact, if you plunge right after a workout, and assuming you're not a professional athlete and you have 5 workouts in a day, if you're just a regular Joe and you work out and then you cold plunge, you can actually diminish some of the benefits you got from the exercise, the physical activity, by constricting blood flow, etc., which is what you do when you go into the cold. So I do it before, and then I'm ready to roll. I'm alert, certainly, and I'm just ready to roll. From a supplements perspective, I don't really do anything crazy. As I mentioned before, I don't do any traditional pre-workout supplements with BCAAs and amino acids and all of those things, but I do take regularly creatine. Creatine is one of the best studied dietary supplements to boost, well, everything really: cognitive performance, athletic performance, recovery. Even it can even improve sleep. And so I used to take a scoop, about 5 grams of creatine before working out, just into mix it into my electrolyte powder. These days I just usually take it throughout the day to help with cognitive performance, or even before going to bed to help me improve sleep and cognitive performance and relaxation, all of those things during sleep. Because I think if I sleep well, that's really the most important aspect that determines my exercise performance the following day, and obviously health outcomes and all of those things. So I play with it. I don't have a strict schedule when I take creatine, but I do try to include some extra creatine, not too much because it gives me loose stools, and I think I'm not the only one. But here is the thing: if you consume a lot of meat like I do, chances are you're gonna get a lot of or enough creatine for what you need. But I guess it never hurts. Unless you overdo it and you get end up on the toilet, to take some extra. And so creatine is a very low cost and effective supplement that I do make part of my just dietary lifestyle. Amino acids and micronutrients. I don't take anything specifically, no standalone amino acids or whatever. I get my amino acids, the building blocks of protein, and my micronutrients from an animal-based diet. So I consume animals nose to tail, including the muscle meat, the fat, the organs, some of the bone components, ligaments, and everything in between, really. And that's where I get my amino acids from. I don't need any extra either synthetic or isolated amino acids, because I get everything I need in sufficient quantities from the food that I eat. Now, from a micronutrient perspective, I have seen, again, some benefits of getting some extra or bridging maybe some of the dietary gaps that I might have, also due to increased stress levels, etc. And for that, I consume organs, and most of the time, that means freeze-dried beef or bison organ supplements. In fact, we just released a supplement dedicated or specifically for high performance, for athletes, for entrepreneurs, etc. It's called American Bison. It's a combination of grass-fed bison heart and liver that just happens to have a lot of the micronutrients and amino acids also that are important for exercise performance. And so I take that, again, not as my pre-workout per se. I just take it with my first meal. The metabolism is working 24/7. Meal timing, I don't think, is incredibly important, or nutrient timing. I just make sure that I get it within a 24-hour period. And so that's what I do to kind of, fill any little gaps that I might or might not have as part of my diet. I think that consistent intake of those things is more important than the exact timing. The other thing that I occasionally lean on are exogenous ketones. And that applies to days where I work out and on days where I don't work out, but I have a tough day at the office ahead. And so I really like to add a little bit of the Delta G Gold, which is an exogenous ketone ester, into my coffee. If I have black coffee, I add a little bit of in there because it really helps improving my cognitive performance. It makes me laser focused, important for, recording a podcast or a video, or doing writing research intense articles. But it also helps for exercise. If I'm mentally on top of my game, I usually perform better physically as well. And those ketones also help with recovery, which is another critical aspect of athletic performance. The quicker I can recover, the better I can perform again the next time I go to the gym. And so that's what I do. And specifically on days when I know that there's going to be a tough workout or I really want to push it in the gym, I use the Delta G Tactical, which is the same really ingredients, just, it's a little bit different packaging, and it's a slimmer package. It's not made out of glass, so I can put it in my gym bag and then just, shoot it before I work out. So that's what I do from a supplements perspective, which isn't really a whole lot. My real secret to performing well in the gym actually starts the day before already. And so what that means is what I do the previous day throughout the day, how I've slept maybe even 2 nights before, which then impacts my performance during the day, and my choices during the day before the workout, have a dramatic impact then on, the night before my workout and then the actual workout. So making sure that I consume an animal-based, macronutrient dense as well diet, consisting of animal-based products, some of the least toxic plants if I feel like I want to add some flavor, avoid inflammatory foods, obviously, and prioritize sleep. That's really the most important aspect, as far as I'm concerned, that determines athletic performance. And so going to bed at roughly at the same time every day, avoiding consuming alcohol before going to bed, avoiding late large meals, having a room that's dark and cool enough. We use a bed cooling solution to help with that. That really helps me improve my sleep, and then athletic performance the following day, and then of course recovery, the following night after the workout. So that's kind of what I prioritize and how I see my pre-workout routine. It's not just the hour before or half an hour before, it's really already 24 hours leading up to my gym session that determines how well I'm going to perform. And all in all, consistency is incredibly important, and I think much more important than implementing complicated rituals that, get old at some point, that stress you out because you want to time, your pre-workout exactly. And, it's all just a big mess that I think at the end of the day is unnecessary, unless you're a professional athlete and squeezing out that extra percent in performance can make the difference between winning and losing. For me, that's certainly not the case, So my pre-workout routine is actually just my daily routine, maybe with the exception of cold plunging, which I do specifically before working out. On other days, I might do it, after the sauna, and don't specifically time it. So from a practical takeaway perspective, start each morning well hydrated, ideally with high quality water or electrolytes. Add a pinch of table salt into your water if you just have regular water. Enjoy coffee in moderation if you like the taste and the smell. Don't necessarily go for coffee because of the energy it gives you, because it doesn't. Embrace gentle morning movements. Go for a walk. Expose yourself to sunlight. That really kickstart your circadian rhythm, or supports your circadian rhythm, gets you awake, and sets you up for a good workout and a reduced risk of injury. Experiment with cold plunging for extra physical and mental boost before working out. Try it out. It might sound counterintuitive, but it actually works, and I've had great success with it. My wife likes it too. Use creatine. For its cumulative sleep and performance benefits. There's nothing wrong with it. Just don't overdo it unless you're going to be spending a lot of time in the restroom, and that's not fun, especially not if you're in the gym. Focus on nutrient density consistently. Make sure that you eat animal-based, protein and fat, and ideally organs, every day. And, use supplements wisely to bridge any gaps, but don't use them to mitigate a poor diet. You can try exogenous ketones strategically, for demanding workouts or to improve recovery, or even before sleep, so you can improve your REM sleep. That's something I've been doing as well. And prioritize sleep. That's one of the most important aspects overall. The bottom line is there is really no magic formula. It's all about consistency, good habits that you do every single day without making them a stiff, ritual that is stressful and not fun to do over extended periods. What do you think? What's your go-to morning routine? What's your pre-workout routine? What has been working for you? What hasn't? If you're watching this on a platform supporting comments or listening to it on a platform supporting comments, let me know. Otherwise, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to add a couple of extra resources in the description here, or in the show notes, so you can check that out and learn a little bit more about some of the things that I do, some of the supplements that I've mentioned, like American Beast. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. I hope I'll see you next time. Share with someone who could use it, who might find it beneficial, and I hope you hear and see you around next week.
Next week on the Primal Shift podcast, we're breaking bread, literally. Is sourdough actually healthy? Where does it fit in an animal-based lifestyle? And why do we only eat it once a month? Tune in and find out what the hype's about and what's just hot air.